Yeah, I mean, no one's watching me, right? You only fast with kids, so they're do when they're younger. You know what I mean?
Dude, you know what's crazy is that there's my kids are high schoolers, right? The older ones, and she's telling me like her other classmates and stuff that are Muslim, their parents are stopping them from fasting. Like you're not allowed to fast.
But both lambe dino hai. You can't do it.
Yeah, no.
Are coming.
I mean, I don't know. Like
because of finals, or
I don't. No. It's just like. They're like, oh, you're gonna get
dehydrated.
Yeah, dehydrated or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, if I ever told my dad about dehydration, he would have smacked me. you know what he told me? He probably would have been like, okay, fast. If you get dehydrated, drink some water. But until then, you're gonna fast.
You know, a lot of people make fun of like our Indian Pakistani parents and stuff, but this is what I love about them, especially like Hyderabadi parents, right? Oh, yeah. They're so hardcore.
Yeah, dude.
They would not tolerate any of this kind of.
क्या तो भी होता जन्नत को चले जाता कुछ नहीं होता.
Talk about it. Like Allah मैंने क्या किया ये दुनिया में like they felt like बदवा you know what I'm talking about?
Look, man, my mom would.
गलत काम करा मैं like.
My mom would be in tears if we.
Course, dude, she would die
if we didn't fast.
Oh, dude, if my parents found out that I was like not fasting like secretly.
That Vice
even
article,
in high school.
The Vice article had the mom was like freaking diabetic, still fasting.
Yeah. And that dude was condescending about it. He was like, he's like my 7-year-old mom diabetic and she's fasting. And
dude, if I ever miss Tarawih, my mom's almost in tears.
Wow, like, that's impressive.
I raised you to go to every Tarawih. When you were kids, how could you be missing Tarawih?
I think our parents kind of knew that we were kind of ditching like they used to see us like in IFS back in the day. They used to see us when they say Allahu Akbar Ruku, then we joined the Tarawih.
No,
then we go to the basketball court.
No, my dad knew that I would do like 8 and I was dead. He was gonna get me more doing 8 because like, I was gonna go pray. I was gonna play basketball, right? So they knew 8 was like the limit for me. Even
they knew our attention spans.
I was upon the Salafi Sunnah from like, you know, even from a young age. 8 was it, you know what I mean? Like that was it, you know? 8 and no hate, you know what I mean? That was it. But
don't hate with 8.
Well, yeah, we're recording. We're live.
So for how long?
About past 3 minutes or so.
Dude, I remember we had this liberal. I don't want to say his name because he went there.
Was that the guy?
Know him? But he went to high school with me. Okay. I remember we were all fasting in Ramadan one day, right? And I catch this guy, dude. I catch him, like he was trying to hide it from us, right? And so I catch him like in lunch period because I'm walking by in my you know
is he gonna be listening to this podcast?
Hold on, you know what the Glenbard? I don't know if you guys had the same way, but not everybody had the same lunch period.
Yeah,
right. There was like 2 different or 3 different periods, right?
3 different periods.
Yeah, right. So this guy was the period like before me. Like my lunch was after his period, right? So I'm walking by the lunchroom. And I see this guy just like munch like and he thought
you see him with what?
He was eating the food. Like he was just eating.
Oh.
Like, he was grubbing. Like he had cheese fries and I mean and my school had like a little Pizza Hut. Like you could actually like order. I mean the lunch ladies would make it.
Yeah.
He's eating it.
We had a little cookie store in ours.
I remember that.
Oh, nice.
Or the Spunk Pie, remember?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had a Taco Bell and a Pizza Hut. Like it wasn't like made. I don't know how they did it, but the lunch ladies did it, right? Anyway, point being is. So, you know, I was overzealous. I would open the door. I'm like, what are you doing? You're eating. He's like, oh.
How old were you, like 16?
I was sick today. I'm like, are you sick every day? He's like, no, man. He's like, Judy's like, man, I don't see the point of fasting. I'm like, I told my mom too. He's like, yeah, I'm just hiding it from you guys because she said people in the community gotta talk. So, and they were Pakistanis, right? So, I mean, I'm just saying,
of course,
like,
Pakistanis.
Yeah, some of them
great.
tend to
Here
be a
we
little
go.
more. Okay, like in the Chicagoland area, some of them in the earlier days tended to be a little bit more liberal, right? That was
a lot of them.
Yeah, but I was trying to be PC here, okay?
All right,
but
it's you know what? It's actually like a lot of the people from Karachi. Just to be fair, I don't want to piss off our northern Pakistani people.
I would say actually a good amount of Punjabis are that. Honestly, even if you look at IFS, most of them have been Punjabis.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah.
Punjabis.
Well, I was at Shalimar like the first Saturday of Ramadan. My wife has this hijab business that she like started up because being a gynecologist doesn't pay enough. It's called Bijou Flair, by the way. Shout out to Bijou Flair. She has 2 followers on Instagram right now, so we need to get up to 5. I'll be the third. I think it's like 2, including me.
So we got 3, 4, and 5 right here.
Yeah.
All right.
So she rented out a booth at this like bazaar, and like Shalimar's got this bazaar throughout all of Ramadan. They like they picked the worst time to like do bazaars, cause she woke me up at 8 o'clock in the morning on a weekend in Ramadan. Like, you know, it's like haram to wake up before noon, right?
Pretty much.
And then on Ramadan, then you wake up at 8, gotta go help her set up. Like, and then you see all these dudes hanging out there all day. Apparently they had chicken tikka cooking from noon.
Oh, wow.
For the kids and like the women under menses and like the diabetics that can't fast. So there was this dude walking, and I saw this dude walking back from like Portillo's with a drink in his hand. Like, I think he ordered like coffee at Portillo's and was walking back around like 10 a.m. when I'm leaving.
Hey, you know what I don't get, dude? And this is.
There's all those liberal Pakistani cats.
Yeah, I bet you 100%.
No, but dude, to be fair, there's a lot of people that are sick and stuff that aren't fasting. We're not just gonna. We don't automatically assume that people are.
No, but I think what we're saying.
Can we just assume they're kuffar, Yani?
No, I'm saying generally in this community in Chicago and area, Pakistani tend to be more liberal than Indians are.
Yeah, they're the ones who introduced like all those cut-off shirts for women and stuff like that. You know it. You know that's
Did
true.
you say your boss was a Paki that eats pork or something like that?
Yeah.
You know what it is? From that
No, but is that a real thing though? Gynecologists don't get paid?
No, she's just
Okay.
wants a side hustle because we're not the slash.
I was thinking if that's the case, if that's not the case, it's probably because of Arturo or something. Because you guys just don't go to work anymore.
Because of work. I think we're both caught up. We're on Bola 119. But anyways, on a side note, it's because like there's this thing. It's a side. This is completely unrelated to Ramadan, but like there's a podcast I listened to last night called The Business of Hype, and like the generation today that people our age and people younger, especially like our kids, are what they call the slash generation. Like people want to do like multiple hustles.
Yeah.
Because their jobs suck or they're boring or they're unfulfilled, right? Mm-hmm. Like IT, right? That's why we got a podcast. Yeah. You gotta do something else but to prevent you from like hanging yourself on a noose.
Be a drone.
Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people who are, have a lot of creativity and things, they're not going to make money off of that. So they need to get involved in something that they hate the least.
Yeah.
And use that as a vehicle to spend their time on, art or things that are related to arts,
Well,
wait, I'm glad. Oh, sorry. Were you going to finish?
Yeah, like Shaq. Look at Shaq. Shaq, we had Shaq on the podcast.
Yeah.
He's an IT, and he's like Undertaker, and he like is a personal trainer.
How do you find the fine line? This is pretty serious because I'm actually struggling with this. How do you tell somebody to stick to what their passion is and do their passion, but you know that they're not going to get paid and they're going to end up struggling monetarily later? Like, I know that there's some truth to that. Yeah, people should do what they love. But the reality, the way the world works is, man, people who end up doing what their passion is, a lot of times, they don't end up making money, and then they end up suffering, and we gave them bad advice. As elders, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of people get this advice from celebrities and stuff. Yeah, go do what you want, blah, blah, blah. But
it's always come from rich people that are telling you that.
Rich people who've already succeeded. They
Yes.
don't talk about the 1,000 other people just like them who failed, and they did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
They worked hard. They did all the things that they were supposed to do to get to celebrity, and they failed.
Well,
okay?
look at the
So, and how many thousands of people do you think try to become celebrities that make it? Like,
Right. That's what I'm saying. Millions.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't allow yourself to utilize their advice based on their success because they're speaking from their own success, their own experience. They haven't seen the thousands of others of people who failed.
Even though they went through the grind, but the thing is that they're giving general advice for a small niche, right?
Look, you're looking at it the wrong way in a second. First of all, that applies to kafirs, dude. These people who get in Hollywood successful, they do anything and everything to get where they want to be.
Yes.
They have no regards for laws, rules, regulations, religion, nothing, right? So when you're telling a Muslim kid, follow your dream, it doesn't work that way. Your life is not a dream. Right?
Yeah.
The life isn't a dream. You're not here to live your dream.
My daughter's teacher just told her, like, oh, you should be an actress. I think you do fantastic in it. And my daughter's like, don't tell me about this. And my wife's like, yeah, maybe you should think about it. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? None of my daughters are going to be no actress. No, she can break new grounds being a Muslim actress in terms of Islamic acting and things like that. I'm like, no. What are you doing? My daughter is not going to be involved in any kind of acting.
This is what I'm saying, though.
What if she could be a Hatun on Utro?
No, wait. This is what I'm saying. No, even Utro. Look at the real actors. They're all douchebags. I mean, look at them. I mean, listen, dude. Let's look at the reality, okay, dude. Most of the
Morty's here.
who get involved-
Morty is here.
Listen, the brothers on Interroll, if you listen to this, we still want you on the show. Go on.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
No, the thing is, when you compare them to like how Muslims should be, though, they're not. I mean, most of them are not that way, right? They're actors, and actors are different. While they portray a great role, but they're not the ideal Muslim character to follow, right? They're just not, right? And the idea is that when you're raising kids or you want to have kids and you're advising kids about what to do, right? Life is not all about, living out your dreams and living in the moment, right? You have a clear objective. Right? And وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Right? And what is your profession going to be doing? Is that going to be embodied within that, or is it going to be outside of that?
Yeah.
Right? And you have obligations as a human being. You're going to get married. Does your career path, does that allow you to be a father and a husband and a supporter? قوامين على النساء, right? Can you actually provide and support, right? And these are the questions you need to ask them. Because now you have generations, in our generation, who did dumb things like marine psychology and journalism. I'm just saying, I respect them who break through, but most of these professions don't make you money, dude. Right? And now you end up living like a 30-year-old in your parents' basement. You can't get married and you have no responsibilities. Why? Because you were told to live your dreams. Well, how is your dream working out for you? Is it working out? Are you married? Are you sitting there? Do you have a family? Is your family, stable in terms of income? Well, you could have actually focused on something that may not have been your ideal profession, but would have been practical for you. And then you get to a point where now you've got enough money, you moved up, you can do the things that you're passionate about. Keep your hobbies and your profession separate from each other.
I like that advice. Keep your hobbies and your professional life separate. I think that's really important, dude, because you have to make money, but there's you have to have an outlet also, right? And a good outlet is doing something that, helping people or whatever the case may be, doing humanitarian. What about on the flip? Hey, man, my passion is to do humanitarian work, and I know it doesn't make that much money, but I want to do it.
Well, that's fantastic if it doesn't make a lot of money, and you're spending all that extra time, fi sabilillah. You're not making any money for it. You're using your own spare time on the weekend, in the evenings, towards that cause, and it actually helps you preserve your niyyah as well, right?
No, I think what we're talking about is actually a full-time career.
For a full-time career. I mean, there are people who do it. I mean, you're going to have to... Yeah, I personally don't like it because you're taking people's donations and you're utilizing that as your means of income as well.
Butter, right? Exactly, right?
So, weird. It's weird for me. Like, I can't... I'm not saying there's other people who do it, and I'm not judging you or anything. I'm just saying, for me, I don't like people taking people's income and utilizing that for my own bills and things. Now, but there might be they might be running a multi-million-dollar institute or an organization like human what's it called? What's the big ones right now? Zakat Foundation or whatever. Yeah. Let's just say they started one of these big multi-million-dollar ones, and they're only taking like a small piece of the pie, whatever they need, like 80,000 to 100,000 a year income. That's a small piece of the pie compared to how much they're doing as a one-man army, really. So, but for me, that still doesn't sit very well. I just can't take someone's money and utilize that for my own income. So the way I look at it is that those are one in a million, right? Not everyone can be a director of some fun organization, right? You can't go to school and say I'm going to become a director of an NGO, right? It doesn't work that way, right? You have other practical life experiences that lead you to that point. Right, you don't come off out of going up at high school to want to be a director of an NGO. Right, you don't. That's not your guide.
That's actually true. Right? Yeah.
So, and this might be a little bit personal, but this is why many times I believe me and Sim have talked to you, Ahmed, specifically, and saying, you know what, don't be employed by masajid.
Yeah.
Do your own thing, because I feel that having to rely on that and being bound to that, it also takes, in my opinion, it also puts a stress on your own Islam, like on your own belief. Right.
I agree with you.
But moving away from that.
Yeah, well, not just that, and working with a lot of different Muslim organizations, they will let you down.
Oh, they do.
I mean, in every way.
There's a lot of politics.
It's so much politics. They behave there, and this is not a one size fits all. I'm sure there's some people who are out there who work for wonderful organizations, but in my own experience and my wife's experience, who's worked with Islamic organizations, and many of my close friends who've worked with these organizations, they've all been let down in tremendously, because they've had people who were coworkers or managers who just stepped out of line in every way. Not even non-Muslims would take the approach. Like, for example, my wife, okay, she had to go back to work within 2 weeks after delivering a baby.
Dang.
Within 2 weeks. This is a Muslim organization, a very large Muslim organization too, that is known around the country. And within 2 weeks, this is 15, 20 years ago, but again, things may have changed back then, but I mean, they let her down in so many ways.
Yeah. No,
I agree
and the
with you,
problem
man.
is that when you do go work for them, they also they're cutting corners as well too.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be a mess that you're gonna have to deal with. Rectify the
mess.
time you're putting in versus the money getting paid, and I mean, it's just not in terms, because it's going back to actually following your dreams, right? Because the whole working with NGOs and stuff is something a side point of this, right? But the reality is not everything that you're passionate about is gonna be what's gonna make you money. Right, and so you have to separate that. We have to make children and young adults more practical in thinking practically in terms of how they're going to provide, how they're going to survive, and also in terms of how can you benefit your community the most,
Right.
Along with making money, right? Because in this day and age, right, it does require money and influence to become very stable in a society, especially in a country like this, where that's everything, right? If you want to get a masjid done, you want to get, representation in schools or in halal industry, whatever it is, right? You need to have some type of influence.
Gotta have capital. Yeah.
Is your career, influence and money, and is your career going to progress that, or is it just going to basically make you, put you in a tough spot, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the whole point. You have to convey that to them.
There's a reality that you have to tell people of. This whole
and
passion
ground them.
thing,
I mean, this is what you call grounding the children, right? You have to bring them back down to reality and say, look, these are what generally options are. This is for the most people, right? We can give you advice, but most people tend to fit in this category where they're regular everyday Joes, right? They're not going to be movie stars and millionaires and inventors and billionaires. They're not going to do that, right? Most people are going to have a 9-to-5 that is going to be, and I think the biggest advice, and I'll just end with this right here, is that getting them to think that earning halal income is an important thing.
Yeah.
Earning halal income will always give you rizq. You'll have barakah in your money, right? It'll always be enough for you if you have halal money and you intend to do that way, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times now, they're just thinking about making money, not the fact that they don't realize that small halal money goes longer than a lot of haram money.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Would you recommend ever to your students not to go to college?
Not to go to college?
If they're going to IT, I wouldn't. I would say don't go to college for IT.
Well, a lot of times they don't even have direction, right? Because I've known people who, even myself, I was thinking about it. I don't think I was ready for college. I was a good student in high school.
I think I would be a great student now if I went to
Yeah,
college.
exactly. I was thinking about that.
That's when you get older, you realize you would.
Because you're all the stuff we're doing, all this reading now. Back then, when
You didn't realize why you're learning what you're learning.
Yeah.
It was all abstract.
Yeah.
You're like, why am I learning math? But then you realize math is actually building your logical skills, and now I'm in IT, right? And I see all the benefits of having sharp logic, right?
Yeah.
You can relate.
And when you're writing scripts and code and whatever, you need the best logic, right? And that's what math develops. But when you're young, you don't realize well, okay, I don't see my parents using this kind of abstract math. I just see them, utilizing math for the discounts at their store, right?
So
20% off. That's all I need to know.
So
Speaking of that,
the difference is this though: is that in college, when you're taking these classes, your objective is to get a piece of paper. When you're taking it after, let's say people who have gone to the workforce and come back and redo and get a degree later on, they're taking classes that that know will directly impact their income. It's meaning that they know it affects the field that they're working in. Right? It's related to the field they're working in.
And also, when I was young, I didn't like being told to do something. I have to do it because, I'm kind of built like that. Even fasting, it's more enjoyable for me when I'm doing it on my own. The non-obligational Nafil fast that you do on Mondays and Thursdays, those are more rewarding for me because I chose to do it rather than the Ramadan fast. I'm not saying
Whoa, what are you saying here, buddy?
Okay.
What are you trying to do here?
I'm not saying.
Basically,
okay.
Sim doesn't like Allah telling him to do
Think
stuff.
someone's
No, I'm just saying it's more enjoyable for me than when I do it. I feel more. He made me feel like Iblis.
God. With certain things, if someone tells me to do something, even if it's the right thing to do, if it's the way, if depending on who it is and the way they say it, I might just blow it off because just have to spite that person.
No, isn't that a general thing though? If it's in our domain, we don't like being told what to do.
Yeah, I guess
that's generally the thing. But
yeah.
that's what there's a certain there's a certain type of love. Even dude, we have to be honest. Even when our parents told us to do things, we didn't like to do it. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right. But that's where you have to have that surpassing love for your Creator and Rasul. That's the exception to the rule.
And I think like during this Ramadan, I've noticed just in myself, just sometimes when the first few days you're kind of getting used to the caffeine crash and stuff, you kind of feel like your ego or whatever that irritation is in the first few days, you're trying to like fight it, right? And you're trying to control it because it seems like it's like an out of control stallion.
Yeah.
And you're trying to like get your feet on it, and you're trying to put that ego down in those first few days, and making sure that making sure you don't snap on anyone, and you're trying to be cool-headed. Usually, like right around iftar time is when I have to control it the most, because that's when like the kids are nagging. And
I think it's different. Man, I'm not going to be able to experience what you guys experience, at least as of right now, because the last many years I've just been working around Muslims the whole time, so everyone's fasting wherever I go. You know what I'm saying? Like you guys actually have a lot more difficulty. You guys actually have to go to corporate America and work and come back. I'm always surrounded by Muslims.
I know. I feel like my corporate America people, they're very understanding. They're so hospitable, and they always want to learn about the religion and why you're fasting. And my work, they allow me to just come in right after sahur time and leave around 1 o'clock.
That's amazing.
And I can go home and I can go to sleep.
You know what I think is that Muslims who don't be open and talk to their coworkers and bosses about this, they're the ones who find it to be have the most difficult time.
Yeah.
Most of the times, what I found is that if you say, "Hey, look, this is my holy month. I'm going to be fasting," they're very sympathetic towards you because they don't understand the concept of fasting for 17, 18 hours, right? They automatically feel bad for you.
They think you might die.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially without water.
They're like, oh my God, this guy's on the limbo of death. He's on the brink of death right now. We've got to listen to him. So the thing is that, and I can testify to what they're saying is that, for me in corporate America, I've never had an issue. They've been more than accommodating. Even at this new place that I'm going to go work at, I told them flat out, look, dude, I'm fasting. You can't do the welcome dinner until after Ramadan. So he's like, oh, yeah, I was coming back from China. And then like somebody was fasting too. Anyway, the point is that they understand and they're willing to accommodate. And especially now because in America in 2018, dude, they cannot be biased towards you because of your religion, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if they didn't want to respect that, they still had to, right? I mean, it's still a very different time now. So don't be ashamed. Tell them, and you'll find 9 out of 10 times they're going to be very accommodating and very curious about.
No, I think many of the problems arise from being a lack of communication, right?
Yeah.
It's a lack of communication, and sometimes when we don't communicate properly, then we complain and think that no one's understanding. But I don't think we did our job.
Yeah, so like yesterday at work, so I got a new manager. My manager took a lateral position, and her last day was Thursday. And when she announced, like, oh, we'll do a potluck, she announced it 3 weeks ago. I'm like, great. Ramadan starts next week. And last time they did a potluck, I was fasting for Arafah. So I missed that too. And she couldn't schedule.
That's an optional one. You can break that.
Go ahead, dude.
Anyways.
Yeah, when people... I heard it. There was some sheikh who said that.
No. If another Muslim invites you to eat...
Yeah.
And they don't know you're fasting. You can.
What about
Arafah is a little different. Those are the special days. That's for like Mondays and Thursdays and Nafil fasting. These are.
So you're saying don't break Arafah?
It's better. It's better to remain fasting.
Arafah, don't break them. I'm just kidding. It's an inside joke, guys. Don't worry.
Anyway, so
look what you did to everybody. So
yeah, so this potluck happens, and then basically they brought out Tupperware, and so I just took all this food home. I just took a bunch of sweets home, by the way.
Rahimahullah. Yeah.
Dude. All right,
go ahead.
Sorry, Mahim.
Yeah, so there was this potluck, right? Yesterday for my boss, and I just ended up bringing like all the. I brought baklava. I picked up some baklava Thursday night, and they got tore up.
Yeah,
these like Gora people love it.
Yeah, it is.
Then what annoyed me though? This one Turkish cat walks in, and I see he get a plate, and I looked at my coworkers. I'm like, man, I had some hope that he was gonna be fasting. Apparently not.
Probably a Kemalist.
I was like stuck for a lot. The Turks, all the Turks that work here.
Kemalists, they're known to be drinkers too, man. I've heard about
none
it.
of them are living up to
The Kemalist?
living up to Ertugrul, the name. So it's funny. One of my coworkers, former coworker, who's Turkish too, like completely atheist. He says he's an atheist, right? He was talking about how he's ordering like booze in Ramadan on Turkish Airlines, and like the guy was giving him a look, and he's like, "What's wrong?" He was like, they're like particular about it, right? They're like kind of pricks and whatnot. But
Who?
the Turks. Like,
wait. So
the secular Turks.
So wait. The air hostess is giving him
No, well,
giving him problems about it.
He was like, so the air host. It's Ramadan. He's flying to Turkey. He's on Turkish Airlines, and he talks about how he was he ordered a beer, and the air hostess kind of was like taken aback by it, even though he might not have been fasting. He's like, oh, even if you're secularist, like don't drink in Ramadan. You know, some cats will do that.
Yeah.
They'll have some
It's
respect.
a custom thing.
Even the
you know?
seculars during Ramadan in Turkey, they'll stop like drinking and stuff.
Yeah, but
I
that's the
think-
problem with cultural stuff, though, right?
Yeah.
It's all cultural non-drinking and drinking.
You're right.
It's
So
a
then
cultural
the
thing.
guy kind of was like, asked him, "Are you sure?" And he was like, "Actually, make that 2 beers."
Wow.
And he actually had to give
And
him.
sometimes
like 2.
people just try to rub it in, dude. They try to prove that they're going against the grain.
Oh,
That's
wow.
the problem.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, those kind of people.
Those cats will be thirsting on counter
And
though.
yeah.
At
I think it's
counter,
the end of Surah Muhammad that
Yeah.
ends in talking
Yeah.
about this, like the people who are the mockers.
Inshallah, we'll be clowning those fools.
No, that's what I'm trying to say, Mahin. Because when I look at them, I'm like, yo, you know, I feel bad for you, dude. You know what I mean? Like, drink now, boy. Drink it up, bro. You be drinking poison, and sooner or later you gonna be like drinking hot poison, bro. Drink that up.
Drinking pus, hot
You know?
pus.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, I'm gonna ask Allah to give me a little window from Jannah to look down and let you drink that, bro.
Okay.
So drink it.
What should we call it? Should I just lost. No, so yesterday, one of my coworkers, and she, you know, is pretty sympathetic towards, you know, fasting, but she's like, "Does it suck for you?" I was like, "No, it sucks for you guys because you're not fasting." And then like she's like, "Well, I feel pretty good right now." She's like, "Talk to me in an hour." Hour later, everybody had itis, food coma, no one could do any work. I was like,
Really?
I'm cool.
I'm cool.
I was like, sucks to suck.
but have you guys come across anybody who really like doesn't fast and they came and told you like, oh man, I don't fast and I don't know what to do. They actually feel guilty about it though.
No, not so. We had an intern a couple years ago who like he's like half Shia, half Sunni, so I think he's not even Muslim.
Why? Because you Shia?
I think the Shia part of him, I don't know, possibly, I don't know. But anyways, regardless, assuming he's Muslim, he was talking about he wasn't fasting. It's like, yeah, his mom is the Sunni one. His dad who was the Shia side, he actually passed away, rahimahullah, when he was. It's okay to say rahimahullah for Shia, right?
Anyway, just go ahead, dude.
Okay.
Just say what
So
you're saying.
anyways.
We're already too far into this, dude. Just go, bro.
So the dude,
Why is he pointing at me, asking me about this? Like,
More than the last
rant
one.
about Shia or something?
Mort, love the Shias, but go ahead.
so anyways,
Yeah, Hassan.
but his mom would always.
God, you're fasting, dude. Don't mess that up.
Say, yeah, Hassan.
His mom would always ask him like ask him to fast because she was like calling him and he was living up here, but I think he's from Pennsylvania. But I don't think he felt guilty. He's like, yeah, bro, I know I should. So I just give him some advice like on his way out. Like, listen, man, at some point you gotta like cope with death like your dad did, like when you were a kid, right? So, you know, but I don't think he felt bad about it. He was just like, yeah, whatever. And I think a lot of Muslims, like the Prophet ﷺ talks about how the Muslims will follow the tradition of the Jews and the Christians.
Yeah.
Especially Jews. Look how Jews are very ethnic. You have like these atheist Jews. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we're like, what the heck is that? We're like, oh, we're ethnically Jewish. We're culturally Jewish.
Yeah,
but we don't
yeah.
follow the religion. And that's I
Yeah.
think a lot of Muslims are playing that game
They're
now.
playing that game. Who's that dude that was
Something Rizvi,
that was
right?
that was on Joe Rogan's
Yeah,
podcast.
what's
Ali
that?
Rizvi.
Ali Rizvi.
Yeah.
The Muslim atheist. He's trying to.
Yeah,
do
he's
that
got
thing
his own
too.
podcast too. I
Yeah.
think Daniel just recently went on his.
I heard
podcast.
Daniel went on there and
Really?
like freaking destroyed them.
Really?
No, I think he just
Oh.
said what he had to say. I don't think it was a debate or anything.
Oh, it wasn't okay.
So
Someone just told me.
I've got a relative of mine that just tells me straight up I don't fast, and you think I'm not gonna fast, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Why? Just because it's difficult, or he just doesn't care about it?
You know, it's tough. I mean, okay, so he's not practicing at all, anyway. But at times, I feel like he feels bad about it, but he's too selfish to change. Like he wants to do what he wants to do so much. That's more important to him than anything else.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of like, yeah, you feel bad. I don't know if he feels bad because he believes in Allah and the message, or if he because of his culturally feels bad that other people are doing it but me. Right? But like, I know, I mean, like he'll straight up, like, I mean, I think he accidentally like drunk texted me like a couple of days ago. Like, I mean, that's how it is. I mean, even like right now, like he just doesn't care about anything. Like he just wants to do what he wants to do. And I think the ones that don't fast are becoming more and more like that. There's becoming a clear line, meaning that either you are going to practice Islam or you're not, right? There's the days of hiding your sins, right, was more of hiding it culturally, not from the community, right?
Yeah.
So that line is being eliminated now. It's going to be
I didn't realize
open
that.
now, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be either you are practicing or not. And in some ways, I welcome that. Because at least now I know who's a Muslim and who's not, right? I know who I can depend on and who I can't.
Yeah.
Who I can relate to and who I can't.
That's true, man. I just feel bad for those people, man.
Yeah, I feel
because
bad,
some
but you
people
know
that
what?
we grew up with, some people that we grew up with, man, that aren't Muslim anymore.
Yeah, but I'll be honest, dude. I'm selfish like that, dude. I don't care, dude. Honestly, do what you want to do, man. I mean, look, you had the same. No, I'm serious. You had the same opportunities we did. You went to the same Sunday school, the same masjid, the same scholars, all that, and you chose. That's on you, bro. You know what I mean? Like I'm not.
I know it's on them. I just feel bad that they just.
Hey, more. Not everybody has a wali of Allah like Mustafa Siddiqui as their older brother.
Yeah, but the thing is, look, but you know
That's true. That's the only reason why you grounded, son. That's the only reason why you're grounded.
Wait. First of all, I just want to make it one thing very clear here. First of all, I brought that wali of Allah closer to Islam because while he was out there listening to Depeche Mode in college days, I used to give him books of like Kitab al-Tawheed and Milestones. Bro, I was on him, bro. So he's a brainchild of mine, dude.
That's true, actually.
You know, just like you, Amir.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, no, but the point is that no, you're right. I mean, alhamdulillah. But to be honest, I got into religion before my brother did. I mean, my brother wasn't he wasn't like a party or anything like that, like people do. But he was just an average Joe. Didn't really know anything about his religion. He did his prayers. I don't know if he did whatever. And he fasted. The basic 5 he did, right? But he at a latter point he became more and more religious. He took it. That's different. But what I'm saying is, all of us, pretty much, with the exception of Mahin, but who grew up in this area, were afforded the same conditions, pretty much, right? Yeah. I mean, we had opportunities. We had a great support network. We had a community. We had all of that. And we all did stupid things at times, right? But something in us, Allah, from His guidance, brought us back to what was something that was, at least took us away from that. Yeah. Right? But some people just don't get that guidance from Allah. And that comes down to the basic point. Allah yahdihi man yasha. Yeah. Right? So I don't feel bad.
But I think we also were more prone to it because we had such a conservative community over here. Yeah. I think our
parents are pretty conservative too.
Well, let me tell you, Sim, the first time I did any of these sins will be with Muslim people and they were peer influence from Muslims.
I understand that, but at the end of the day, we were still it was wrong. It was not considered acceptable, right?
Correct. But what I'm saying though is that the same people that he mentioned, the ones that we grew up with, it's sad to see them do that, but they had the same conditions we did.
They didn't exactly. They didn't. I think a lot of their parents and whatnot, they weren't as involved in the community as our parents were.
I mean, maybe
not everyone. I'm saying, but there are.
The ones that I've seen have gone that way. That statement would be false for them. Their parents were involved. There were Sunday school teachers. They were all up. I mean, they were part of the.
I actually don't know if you you still can't tell what's going on in the household, right? You get what I'm saying?
If you want to break it down on a molecular level, yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? You're right.
Right. You're right. You don't know what's happening in the closed doors. Like, but what I'm saying is on a communal level, though. Yeah. Right. I mean, on a communal level. It was a cultural, like Sim said, was a very important part where even if you weren't fat, you didn't believe in something, you didn't want to make that open. But the reason for doing that, I believe, was wrong. It was because you didn't want people to look down on you. Not because you were convinced that Islam was right or you felt bad and guilty of disappointing Allah. And my point is that I welcome this change now where people who don't care about religion and they can stop pretending. Stop it, dude. You know, the game show is over, bro. You know, just do what you want to do because, you know, more, we see it in your actions, bro. We see it in the way you talk, the way you move, the way you do things, right? Stop the hypocrisy. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have an effective reach out to Muslims and try to embody it and make a community of sure. Of course we should do that. But we shouldn't be bending over backwards to people that don't want it, right? Get lost. I don't care
what I'm getting at right now is that right now my oldest is a high schooler. She's saying that like every Muslim in the school is literally dating. Okay. Now I don't know what's going on beyond the dating, but she knows for sure pretty much everyone is dating or has some kind of relationship going on.
Yeah.
Now in our schools, I remember when we were growing up, we did that, but like it wasn't like it was still like undercover, right? Like you didn't really advertise that. And now like it's become like pretty open, like
because everything, the hyper liberalism culture has definitely, the Muslims had to gravitate towards it.
She's saying like it's so bad that they couldn't even find a man to lead their MSA.
Yeah, your brother was telling me that, man. Your brother was telling me that.
No guy wants to become an MSA president
and not even lead the prayers there. He doesn't even want to lead the prayers there. You know,
it's that bad. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, the degradation of society that, you know, our, like the Muslims that are our age, the 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, you know, who have kids who are in high school, they're just,
yeah, man. I remember in the 90s, dude. I mean, I know we always hear older people saying this and people complain about, you know, older people always talk about how their days were, but you know, that's what we can relate to. In the 90s, we were not the most practicing people in high school, but when it came time for Salah, it was an honor thing, you know. It was a thing of, you know what, I don't care, you know, how much I don't practice, but we're gonna go to Jummah together. Remember
Dude,
those?
I remember
get our papers signed every Jummah by Dogar Saab, rahimahullah. He used to sign our papers, go back to Glenmardy's, and we used to go back to school. But that was just our thing. We had to do it, bro. And you know, the Muslims that didn't go to Jummah, there was only a few, and we knew them. Everybody knew them.
What we had to do is because we had a different Glenbard, so there was no masjid bayat at that time. So we actually got permission to actually do like our own Jummah khutbah in the school. That's what we had. It was like 4 kids, but we did it. Like we actually had to learn
of course,
khutbah al-hajj, and we had just so we could actually have a khutbah. You know what I mean? And pray in Jama'ah. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like I mean, it's and like. You know, people obviously look at it as fun. Like, what are you doing? You're praying. You know, seeing someone praying in open was not still that common, right? Especially, you know, at that time in the 90s. And it was still kind of new, right? I mean, they didn't really understand what Muslims were, you know? But I think the problem is, here's the difference now. Back then, the reason why we had these groups in schools is because we couldn't relate to our parents at all. Meaning the home environment was different than the outside environment. Because a lot of them came from another country. They didn't understand the language, the customs, you know, whatever it is, right? The norms. But now, everything, like our generation, our kids, right? You can relate to them.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, there's always going to be a gender gap, right? But you still, for the most part, get American culture, language, understand what they're encountering, the pressures, right? That doesn't change. The forms of it might change, but the structure of it is always going to be there, right?
Yeah.
Growing up. The pains of growing up in America, right? You've been through that. So now I think the focus has to be the parents have to have that relationship with their kids.
Yeah.
It's now utmost importance because outside they're just as confused with all the radical shifts in because of political correctness and, you know, liberalism and even conservatism, however you want to do it, right? Both sides have put forth pretty radical positions nowadays.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're being bombarded by this. So they have to be able to come home and be grounded.
Yeah.
Right? And figure out at home how to rectify all the leftist stuff, all the conservative stuff, all the religious stuff, all the non-religious stuff. They have to find that middle point at home. Right? And that's where parents are now. And the reason why it's important now is because you can relate to your child.
Yeah.
Our parents couldn't really relate to us here.
Yeah.
Right? So we had to have each other. That's why we had MSAs. We had to bring all this stuff up together because we needed to relate to each other.
But I think a lot of the Muslims that are in cities that aren't as large as ours, Chicago is a pretty large city, New York is a pretty large city, but other than that, most of these, the liberal type that we're seeing that are, you know, being propagated throughout social media, these people, they came from like smaller towns that didn't really have that kind of culture, and there's like such a disconnect. You know, I don't know if you've been following this whole thing with the whole Wajahat Ali thing that he you know,
fill me in.
He said something like, you know, I say Allahu Akbar before taking a dump.
No, after taking a dump.
After taking a dump.
Mort's got us look like
like
no, because so the thing was, he said he was trying his job to belittle the fact that people, when they hear Allahu Akbar, they freak out, thinking some jihadi thing. He said, no, it's not. We say Allahu Akbar all the time. I mean, when I have a nice dump, I say Allahu Akbar after I'm done.
Wait, hold on. Now look, people get offended, but I find that to be slightly funny. Okay, I'll tell you why. Listen, he's making a mockery out of their fear out of something, right? Now, technically, most of us say Ghufranak, right? We don't say Allahu Akbar in the toilet, right? Yeah. But I mean, I get why he would say that to mock those people, right? Because those people are thinking that every time someone says Allahu Akbar, it's something, it's a bad thing.
So I'm glad you have that husna done for him, and I'm so happy to hear that. Okay, and if that was it, that was on its own. You know, I think we would totally forgive the brother, but then he has this whole thing that he's got going on with MLI, which is the Zionist organization that is acting against BDS. For those who don't know, these are like Palestinian type issues that are
trying to normalize settlements and making everything okay.
I actually
they're an organization that's trying to recruit Muslim leaders to go to Israel and build empathy with the Zionist settlers.
So what they're doing is, I had to look at this because there was another guest that had mentioned this a long time ago. I really wasn't familiar with MLI, so I wanted to kind of look it up. And so basically what they're doing is they're doing exactly what they've done to the evangelicals. They're trying to do it to the Muslims now. And they're trying to find friends in the Muslim community by bringing them into Israel, paying for them, putting them in this this brainwashing trip where they take them to sites and make them see how, the Jews love everybody and they're just trying to defend themselves, and they're basically vilify the Palestinians and to gain support of these. You know, and they want to make them leaders in the community, and they're thinking it's kind of like the Trojan horse, right? They want to put them back into the Muslim community and to challenge ideas. Now, and me personally, I think anyone that's affiliated with MLI really needs to question their own morality.
Well, and I think so. Here's what they've done. Okay, I think that brother Wajahat Ali and Rabia Chaudhry, Harun Mughal, all these people, they're really talented people. When you look at their writing and you know, they're very educated and well-spoken and very articulate, and you know, you can just tell, like, hey, these people are talented. Now, what they've done is they've identified Shalom Hartman and these other people. They've identified that these people are talented and these people aren't getting recognized in their own communities for their talents.
Yeah.
So what they do is they give them a lot of what do we always seek? Recognition, affirmation. We want, since we're kids, we're always seeking this affirmation. And finally, people like Rabia, Harun, and Wajahat, and them, they all got this affirmation. Like, hey, these people realize the talents that my own communities are recognizing in me. These people know. They get it. They have a vision, and they know I'm part of that. And now I can actually. Where else did that? Who's that guy from Majid Nawaz? Right?
Yeah.
From the
Quilliam Foundation.
He's the same way. I know brothers from UK who are part of his family and stuff. They're like, this guy, since the beginning, he's always wanted recognition. He wanted fame. He always felt like he had talents. He was part of HT
back in the day. Yeah.
Back in the day before he got imprisoned in Egypt, Majid. And the brothers in that organization, they said, like, hey, Majid always was, you know, wanting a platform where people can see his skills, his eloquent manner in his speech, and he's always sought that, and we identified that earlier on, and we didn't give him some of the leadership spots that in their organization they dealt with people like Omar Bakri Muhammad and them who ended up starting Al Muhajirun, so they kind of saw how to be careful with people who are very charismatic. But again, I'm getting off the topic. But
not MLI.
Let's just say we're talking about MLI.
And Wajahat, it's not even really about MLI, because it's not Wajahat's recent things about MLI. It's the Allahu Akbar, not the Allahu Akbar tweet, but really the article he put out like less than a month ago. He talks about like the Israel-Palestine issue, right? And Palestinians, he's asking God for dua. He's like, I couldn't ask God because I'm convinced that he's now an absentee landowner. He sold Abraham's children a lemon.
Yeah. See, this kind of speech, I can get it. I get it because I know where people who aren't who are kind of divorced from
Right.
the Islamic culture, the students, and how we we have such a respect for how Allah and the Messenger are used in conversation. And I can understand where he's coming from and where he's not part of that culture, and he's going to talk very loosely
The
like
Western
that,
culture that can depict Jesus and make fun of them.
right
and stuff,
right
yeah.
So I understand that, and I still can even make an excuse for him if it was just on its own. If that in itself, the whole Allahu Akbar and these type of things, I can understand, because this culture is kind of like that, and I can expect someone who is trying to make a case utilize like bad examples like that.
I think what you're saying is you can understand what position he's coming
Yeah,
from. Like,
but I think Sim, I want to we got to speed through this, because Sim's saying that, like, I think your point is, why is he getting invites in the first place before these? The MLI thing is the big problem, right? That's kind of your point. But with that, we actually have somebody we got to call in right now.
Okay,
he's ready to go, and hopefully we can connect. We haven't done this before, by the way, listeners. Calling in a guest mid-show.
Yeah.
So hopefully this works.
I'm mad to move first, huh?
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam.
So, listeners, please welcome back Ahmed Shaikh to the show. You guys have remembered we did a show with him about a year ago, talking about CVE. Ahmed, former board member of ISNA, right?
Right. I was on the executive council, so the operational board of ISNA.
Okay. And obviously we were just talking about the Wajahat Ali situation. We were bringing more up to speed a little bit. I think Mort's not too familiar with him.
Ahmed, how are people chosen at ISNA to come and speak? Because it seems like what's going on in social media is that everyone's wondering, okay, he made a mistake in terms of how he's utilized some language related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but if this is a platform of ideas and ISNA is supposed to be unbiased towards discussion, why can't we just let him come and speak?
Well, I mean, it's we're not. I mean, ISNA is not going to be completely unbiased. I mean, it's a pretty open platform in a lot of ways, and it represents really a broad swath of the Muslim community. But I think the statement said it's a unifying organization. And so like a lot of other nonprofits, I mean, we have stakeholders. We have people who really care about the organization. And we kind of care about what it is they think. And when you're on a board, or when you're in charge of an organization like this, you're a fiduciary. You don't really care about just what your opinion is, but you have to care about what the supporters of the organization think.
Right.
And so in this instance, we would have. I mean, and I can imagine. And even though I wasn't even on the board when this happened, I mean, I'm still kind of involved and sort of in the loop about what's going on. But people would approach me as well. I know a lot of the people who are current leaders within the organization are constantly being we're just being asked about this, and a lot of them there were a lot of people who were very upset. The thing here is, we have a lot of people who are Palestinian, who care about Palestine and the way Palestinians have been marginalized increasingly within the Muslim community. And we don't want to alienate. I mean, we wouldn't want to alienate people. We wouldn't want to alienate people who think that if you're going to be a leader in the Muslim community, or you're going to be speaking in a platform like this, and you're going to say things that are, for example, about if you're going to say things about Allah in this type of a way, on this type of a public platform, that's going to be offensive to a very large number of people. And is this wrong? I can imagine that the ISNA leadership would be, well, we can't really defend this. I mean, we can't put this on, and if it's going to harm the organization and harm the purpose for which the organization exists, and not provide benefit to the people coming to the event, then it makes sense that they would say, hey, you don't really fit our values. and it would probably be best for you to not be in the convention.
Yeah, before you came on, we were actually talking about how he spoke about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and saying that he sold a lemon to the children of Israel, and
Right.
and I think the whole saying Allahu Akbar while using the washroom or whatever. So we actually kind of defended him in the sense that if it was just those statements on its own, it's just people who aren't part of Islamic tradition, and they don't understand like how the decorum in utilizing that kind of language, and if those
Right.
were statements on its own, we could forgive him, and hey, that's a mistake, and go easy on the guy. But combine that with the whole MLI thing, and you using the Atlantic as a platform to attack your fellow Muslims after you've been disinvited. I think when you take everything into account, you see that this is not somebody who's just being misunderstood. That hey, this is somebody who has an agenda or is utilizing his celebrity for for furthering his cause. Maybe it's the whole Shalom Hartman Institute that his whole ideology is kind of fixated
And also,
on.
many folks were mentioning that the fact he's able to get an article in the Atlantic published so quickly was like a proof of his influence.
Right. And I can say that. I mean, it's anybody who kind of is familiar with his work, and I mean, I like a lot of his work, and there's something about him and his work and trajectory and in his career that makes me want to root for him. Just speaking personally, but then of course you come up with stuff like this, particularly when it comes to his MLI activism or anti-BDS activism, and of course there's this campaign to have him not speak at various events, and this has happened before with other organizations, and it had to have been known that he has a media megaphone, that he is prone to drama, and that this type of thing would happen, and so it was you would have to imagine that knowing what the organization or the people in the organization know, they still had to take the action and disinvite the guy.
So the question is, the MLI stuff isn't new though, right? I think Sim's point was the MLI stuff isn't new. So why was he invited in the first place? Like that. See, I think we actually differ a little bit.
I think that's a fair question, but I don't think people who went to MLI are banned from ISNA. The mere fact, and the mere fact that
why not?
MLI,
but why not? I mean, there's Islamist groups that are banned from ISNA. I used to, when I was young, I used to be part of some Islamist groups, and they weren't allowed to have booths in the bazaar and things like that. So when you can ban Islamist groups from having a booth in the bazaar or any platform to speak, why can't you ban MLI? Or was that just politically inconvenient?
I think there's going to be a kind of a difference between banning people who are there as representatives of MLI. So, for example, speaking about MLI and how wonderful it is and how wonderful Zionism is, versus speaking about other things. So Wajahat would have come to speak on, I believe it would have been a media panel, and that's what he would typically do. That's his expertise. So you're going to have people who are in media, and they're going to be talking about their experience with media. Now, what's Wajahat's recent experience with media? Obviously, it's promoting MLI and such. So say for example, you have somebody who has a opinion about something that might come off as, I don't know what you mean necessarily by Islamist group or banning people, banning particular people. I think ISNA's been
I think
ISNA's been pretty open to, I mean, at least in the past few years.
Maybe recently, but I'm talking the early 2000s.
It's a pretty open process. What they do is, and even if you, they have this process of their own speakers, where they have this convention programming committee that, and I've never been part of that committee. I know that it's a large number of people, and they invite a bunch of individuals. But then they also have this process of picking other organizations events. So a number of other organizations will have their own speakers and propose programs. And if it's interesting enough, they might if it's relevant, they might well accept it. But yeah, there might be some people who will say things that'll be that outrageous, or that'll be, that might put the organization at risk. That they might say, hey, we'll pass on this. That could definitely happen.
So
I think you're right in that. Yeah, well, it's probably appropriate to not have programs that promote MLI, but I don't necessarily know that that's a policy.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been debating this as a podcast host, and we've been trying to promote this podcast as a platform of ideas, and and now I've been kind of doing some soul searching and thinking that I don't think we are open to every single idea. I think a lot of these people, like Robbie and them, they have their own platforms and they're doing a fantastic job. They've got, hundreds of thousands of followers on Facebook and Twitter, and they have all these friends and already promoting them. And I'm like, why should I, offer this platform to these people who already have such a wide following and they're so antithetical to what our platform is already about. So
I think here's the thing. I understand where Sim is coming from, and I understand where Ahmed's coming from. Okay, so Sim is questioning why ISNA would has no problem banning certain Muslim groups and organizations, and not others that are non-Muslim, but maybe have very opposing views of compared to Muslims. And in the same token, Ahmed's saying that as long as they're not pushing out Zionism like as a booth, it's fine. But I think the biggest problem we have here is this is exactly what MLI wants. They want to have mainstream Muslims that are sympathetic towards Zionism, and by ISNA, a mainstream organization, giving these individuals that openly work with MLI a platform, it makes them mainstream, right? This is exactly what they want. They want this Zionist narrative to be very acceptable in front of many Muslims. And what better way than if you give them a platform, or at least recognize them as influential individuals at a convention such as ISNA, regardless of whether they're talking about Zionism or not. But the fact that they're affiliated with that and they're allowed to represent themselves at North America's largest convention of Muslims, it's symbolic to something.
Here's my fear, Ahmed. My fear is that allowing these discussions to take place will soon result in the opinion. There'll be certain scholars and things that will open up the discussion for, is Palestine even necessary to, for Muslims to even fight for? Is this something that the Quran is asking Muslims to do? And I really feel like we're not that too far away from some kooky fatwa like that coming out saying that, we don't have to fight for Al-Quds as long as, Muslims are allowed to pray in Al-Quds and they're allowed to have, the third holiest site of Islam still in their hands. That's okay. The Israelis can have what they want.
I don't actually necessarily think we're that far away from that situation within the Muslim community.
Right.
And so if we're going to be, and it's really just an open question in the sense of, well, where does ISNA want to go as an organization, and how open does it want to be? And in my own perspective is that we should look at it from an ethical viewpoint rather than, say, a content-based one. And what I mean by that is, if you have people that are there that are promoting Zionism, and they're working with groups that actually are Zionists or promote Zionism, say for example Shalom Hartman, which is an Israeli military contractor, something along those lines. And for those purposes, or say they're there to promote UAE foreign policy and they're in with the UAE, or whatever the case may be, then you should probably have some sort of policy preventing that from happening, because I think that's pretty corrupt.
What you're really saying is that we got to have a red line. We got to start
Right.
creating a red line that, we can't allow certain things. These are things that we're going to be unified with the Palestinians, as a Muslim bloc, utilizing our Muslim identity. We're going to make a red line and say this thing is non-negotiable, and all the blood.
We don't side with killers.
All the blood that's been spilled over 75 to 100 years or whatever is not going to go in vain.
But here's another problem with that, though. So if you're looking at it from the perspective of, say, ethics, right, there's also this other portion of the Muslim community out there that genuinely believes this stuff, and they're not being paid to believe it. They're actually not in with Zionists. They just think, hey, why do we care so much about Palestine? And they're genuinely questioning this themselves. Or they actually they're really big on the U.S. military, for example. They might think that, hey, the U.S. military can do no wrong, or they think that we shouldn't be doing Know Your Rights presentations at masajid, because if the FBI comes, you really should talk to them, because we don't have anything to hide as Muslims. And there are going to be people like that throughout the Muslim community, and I might disagree with them. And I think that they're really wrong or even dangerous in a lot of ways. But to say that, hey, you can't be part of this organization, if you have something even interesting to say, we shouldn't let you come in and speak, just as a blanket matter. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with that. Just because that's such a huge part of the Muslim community, and you want them to be part of this exchange of ideas that might take place in a conference.
Yeah, I understand that, because I think that's why I wasn't necessarily, Wajahat has been at ISNA before. His MLI involvement isn't like some new phenomenon, right?
Right.
So it's just like it didn't really upset me necessarily that he was just getting invited, but it's like more. So I want you to talk about the actual pressure from the community, though, that kicked in. So there was like a Facebook post before Ramadan, calling for like a boycott if Wajahat was not removed. And then I myself, and I talked to you about this offline, amongst many others, I emailed Dr. Altaf Hussein, and what I said was, I agreed that the brother shouldn't maybe have posted like in a public forum, but we could reach out to you personally. So I was like, okay. So, and I said he should be disinvited based on his statement about Allah being an absentee landowner. And then an apology at this point shouldn't even matter. If he apologized, I'd be okay with him being invited back in a future year. But when you cross the line with making statements about our creator, irregardless of his MLI affiliation, I think that's where we kind of got to draw the line. And I remember I wrote this right before Ramadan, and I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? And I was thinking to myself, like, last week, I was like, hey, he's still in the lineup. I'm going to have to put Altaf on blast after Ramadan. Even though Altaf and I go way back, it's all, but, and then the statement came out. Talk a little bit about what you know about the pressure that came from the Muslim community, to like pressure ISNA to like remove him from the program.
Well, I mean, let me just to discuss the issue that has to do with Aqidah, right? So there were a number of people, and I think that's the case with some shuyukh, and some others who have trouble with that statement that came in the context of a really widely publicized article about settlers. ISNA has a very long history of inviting speakers who would not know what Aqidah is if it hit them with a baseball bat. There are, there's just a lot of Muslims that work outside of the field, of say Islamic studies, or kind of they're Muslims, or they might identify as Muslims, but they still come, and they might talk about politics, or they might talk about their book, or what have you. I mean, I don't
know if you heard about this.
Reza Aslan's been there. Reza Aslan has said, he goes on TV and he says his book just overthrew the Quran. And he ends up being over at ISNA. I don't think he's there this year, or he has been in the past few years. Did you hear about
Amani Khatabe, who's dancing with like an Israeli soldier on a Maroon 5 video. I mean, she's that Muslim girl blogger. These are the things we're talking about right now that are like really shocking to a lot of.
ISNA as an organization
I don't think she's at ISNA though. I don't think she's.
Yeah, she has a booth.
Yeah, she's a
I'm not
booth.
sure
She's not a speaker.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. She wasn't like a speaker or.
But she's being propped up by like Dahlia Mujahid and them. They're like, oh, this.
No, the thing is that
this
yes,
is not like.
No, the people that are okay. So let's rewind a little bit. ISNA is an organization like any other organization that wants to keep its numbers, right? And we know that over the last couple of years, ISNA's attendee numbers have gone down, right?
Is that true, Ahmed?
It's true for Chicago.
Okay.
I don't think Chicago.
And that makes a lot of sense, though. By the way,
it's not fatigue in Chicago.
yeah, it's
I mean, I'm not saying it to insinuate anything.
I think ISNA is actually doing. I mean, for this convention, and I hope everybody registers for Houston. The numbers are actually. I'm being told by my friends over there that the numbers are actually looking quite good for Houston, and the Houston convention should be doing pretty well. I mean, a few years ago there was one in Detroit that did very well. I think Chicago is I think has had some challenges for ISNA in the past few years. I know that many years ago Chicago used to be a really great venue for ISNA as a convention. Now keep in mind though. One way to judge an organization is the convention, because that's what most people are familiar with, or most people in the American Muslim community are kind of familiar with the convention. But ISNA is actually a lot more than the convention. So it has Mina is something that's been doing very, very well. The Mina camps have grown. I think they've grown like 300% over the past few years. So they, Mina's done very well.
That's Muslim Youth of North America, right? Mina?
Yeah, that's Muslim Youth of North America is actually part of ISNA.
Okay, and where do their events take place?
They do camps. They do.
Okay.
I mean, first of all, Mina is a component of the ISNA convention. So there's some Mina sessions there. Though they're not necessarily, I think that's mostly in tandem with the ISNA convention, or it's going to be families that go there and the kids go to Mina. But then there are these camps that Mina does in different parts of the country. So they're going to be doing a number of summer camps this summer in East Coast, in the Midwest, West Coast, that type of thing. And they do them in the winter, spring. They just do a lot of camps. They tend to be like week-long camps, for kids that are, I think, 12 to 19.
Yes. So my point was this, though. ISNA is like an organization like any other organization, and they're going to do what they want to keep their numbers. And that means inviting people that are probably, in the spotlight or getting media attention, or and that would reflect good for them, and I know ISNA is very big also on their outreach with the non-Muslim community, and they try very hard to make themselves accessible and open in terms of interfaith, which is perfectly fine. But I think because of that, it also influences their decisions about who they invite. And maybe someone like Wajahat Ali, or maybe someone like someone along that line may be beneficial for them in terms of reaching an audience that may not be as practicing or even a different religion, because they kind of build that bridge. So I understand why they would want to invite these people, but I think what Sim is trying to say and what Mahin is trying to say is that at some point we have to retain our identity, and that means drawing a line in a certain place. We
have to utilize our political block, our identity as a political block,
right?
And have some positions that we're not going to move at all regarding
right. So there's certain things, right? Like for example, there's many political topics, hot topics that different groups among the spectrum have very strong opinions on. For example, like guns, abortion, right? LGBTQ stuff, right? All these things, these are certain things that every group in America, and we have polarized opinions about them, right? But they stick to their principles to the point where that they actually define the group. Like, oh, if you're anti-abortion, you're probably a conservative, right? Or, so to the point where they defend them tooth and nail. And I think Muslims now, as we've become more politically aware, we're kind of settled in our identity as American Muslims. We also need to have a certain, quote, red lines, right? And say, listen, if you want to be affiliated with us or considered to be generally part of the jama'ah of Muslims that embody in North America, then yeah, we have a certain standard, we have a certain belief, and we are against certain things, right? And we shouldn't be afraid to let that be known. And I don't think we have to invite these people who have these concerning opinions into the convention in the name of being pluralistic and having many people of different opinions in part of the group.
Because right now, Ahmed, the issue is that it's not just about delegitimizing BDS and MLI. It's about people making Palestine a Palestinian issue rather than a Muslim issue, and you're seeing this narrative being pushed by many people in social media. That there were well-intentioned comments that were against Wajahat, saying that, hey, you're an Indian guy or whatever, and you shouldn't be talking about Palestine. But I defer with that line of reasoning that it's not his. I think it's fully within his right as a Muslim to be engaging in that dialogue, but not about the question of whether Palestine is even up for debate or sympathizing with the Zionists in itself. That is something that you should be hammering him on, not his identity or his ethnic identity, because I think we as Muslims should.
I don't think ISNA has done that, and what's more is I don't think at least the more prominent critics, I mean the people who have given really thoughtful critiques to the MLI program, have done that. That whole thing about how you're South Asian, so sit down and you don't have the right to speak about it. I mean, that's obviously these are people who are, very identitarian or whatever.
They're involved in identity politics.
Yeah, that's there's going to be some. I mean, you can always find crazy people saying all kinds of stuff on social media. But as far as I know, I mean, if you look at like say these, I've actually never been to their conference, but if you look at the American Muslims for Palestine, like their speakers and the people who are even on their board, I mean, it's not necessarily just Palestinians. They seem to have a lot of space for Desis, and for everybody else as well. The idea is that, yeah, of course, it's an Islamic issue. It's a Muslim issue. Obviously, there are people from other faith traditions that are there, and it's not, we obviously care about them and human rights and all of that stuff. But yeah, there's a particular, the reason ISNA, or actually why you hear khutbahs about this probably, more than a lot of other things, is because of its place in Islamic history and in our hearts, right? So and not that ISNA doesn't have, like, as far as ISNA's on this the Rungia coalition, and it's not the only issue, obviously, but ISNA is not a foreign policy issue, foreign policy thing. If something blows up somewhere in the world, ISNA is not going to always issue a statement or opine about whatever's happening here or there. But with Palestine, a lot of the times it's a little bit different. And I think the expectation of the Muslim community, at least right now, is that, yeah, you do take a stand on issues that have to do with Palestine. So yeah, and then the other part of it is the MLI itself is kind of set up to exacerbate ethnic divisions within the Muslim community. So that there is that part of it as well. So if you have people who are taking the position of or utilizing talking points, propaganda that comes from the Israelis, and saying that, hey, I'm the Muslim here and I'm taking this position, and then you're erasing the Palestinians completely from the conversation by virtue of doing that, it's going to cause some resentment And unfortunately, some people are just going to lash out, not just at Wajahat, they're going to lash out at South Asians generally. And I think that's part of the, that's got to be part of the plan. That's got to be,
Right.
Part of why MLI exists in the first place.
Well, I wanted your thoughts on this. When before you came on, we were kind of theorizing how, people like Rabia, Harun, Wajahat, all these people who, were unheard of for all intensive purposes before MLI, at least in the Muslim community, how they kind of came to prominence. And I think what I was suggesting was that, an organization like Shalom Hartman saw some, very high qualities in, their eloquence and a lot of their talents that, other Muslim organizations probably didn't see. And I was kind of suggesting to the guys like, hey, maybe if we as Muslims and organizations kind of take more interest in seeing some of the talents that we have within, it wouldn't be used against us by organizations like Shalom Hartman. I think them giving them that validation, I think we can't discount that. I think a lot of times when people are recognized for their talents and see, like, hey, this organization Shalom sees all these talents in me that my own Muslim brethren, they don't see that, and they know me to be a leader that I rightfully need to be, and I think, what do you think about that? Do you think that Muslims should be taking a more, Muslim organizations in particular, like ISNA, should be identifying a lot of these leadership type skills before organizations like Shalom jump in?
I think so, and then to a great degree, I think that's happened. I think a lot of Muslim organizations have, and not just ISNA, but a lot of organizations are very interested in developing youth, and developing skills. ISNA has a scholarship program, for example. Aside from Mina, I mean, that's one of the things that ISNA's been doing. And part of it is also, there with the camps and the regional conferences that take place. There's the magazine. There's this effort to try to develop people within the Muslim community. And I think that should definitely.
Yeah, because when you look at their talents, so you see Wajahat's writing and his speaking ability, and Rabia as well. I mean, they're very talented. You cannot ignore that fact that they have those talents and they're very intelligent people. But they could be certainly join the greater Muslim body, and I think we would welcome them back in open arms. And if they, disavowed themselves from this organization, there's plenty of need for these people to exist in this space.
But do you think that those organizations like Shalom, do you think like they actually identified these individuals because they know it would be easy to persuade them on their side?
I think so.
That's what I'm trying to say. So they already don't conform to what would be considered normally part of the Muslim community. So they were kind of the outcast that generally had but very good qualities. I mean, there are certain people who have very exceptional qualities, but they're just not, they're not workable with the community.
I still think Rabia, though, is more known for Serial than MLI.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't care about Serial. I mean, cool, man, entertaining dude, but I mean, it has no bearing on my life. I don't care about that. And the thing about is that this is like a popularity thing. They resonate a lot with certain people. Rabia has become a figure that maybe certain people who have kept up with the Serial podcast, they've kind of made her into a celebrity status, right? Yeah. So she carries a certain weight in that regard. But I don't think there's anything exceptional about her work that would say, oh, wow, the Muslim community should have recognized that she was going to become a great podcaster about, Serial. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, how could we know that? It's just a fringe thing that caught momentum, right? So,
and again, like Shalom has that kind of money as well. Yeah. They have the ability to even make somebody who's a nobody into somebody,
To be honest here, the Zionist movement has a lot of influence over media and just overall public opinion. They have professional PR groups that work day and night tirelessly on the internet as well to propagate a certain view. So naturally, if you're going to side with that team, all of their resources are at your disposal, right? And so Muslims in general, we don't have that. We don't have that same political, power, but nor in the media, nor even in terms of influence, in terms of public relations, right? We just don't have that. I mean, they could put a news report out tomorrow and get it on the desk of every single news agency, and we don't have that kind of power, right? So this is why do you see certain individuals like Wajahat that get airtime on media? Where does that come from? Did that come out of nowhere? No, it obviously has somebody's pulling those strings. So there's a balance here. You give some, you take some, right? What are they sacrificing to get what they have, right? And so are we prepared to do something like that? And I don't think the short answer is Muslims aren't comfortable doing that, and rightfully so.
The thing is, we have to question also the moral compass of some of these folks, because not to mention names, Omar Muzaffar, when he was on our show, what was it, like 8 months ago, I forget the timeline, we talked about MLI for a little bit, and he says that one of the things that rubbed him the wrong way about MLI is that he reported an affair between two married folks who were in MLI, right, to the head of MLI, and he did nothing about it, and it's just been brushed under the rug, right? And that just say a lot. And even the reaction you see from, so Wajahat went ahead and like put ISNA on blast right away, and then just to try to make himself seem like a good guy, the next day post about how, well, you guys should still go and spend $6 on a samosa, and I don't mean for an ISNA boycott, etc., etc. But really, that's what he wants. It's like as someone said. I don't know if it was you when we were talking offline, but it's like he didn't get his breakfast cereal. He wants to burn the house down.
Right.
But I don't think it'll happen.
Well,
I don't see why, because dude, it's not part of the American Muslim culture, right? I mean, we hate it or like it, dude. It's part of our culture. We all grew up with it. It's a household name, right? You can't shut down ISNA, dude.
Many of us had our first kiss over there.
Whoa.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, I thought you were talking about you and more.
In Ramadan too.
Hey.
Astaghfirullah.
I'm joking.
Ahmed, do you have any last points on this before we wrap up this?
I think with regard to these individuals, just a point as far as say people like Rabia, Wajahat. I mean, all of these, a lot of individuals that's I'm sure believe sincerely they are doing the right thing, that they're being helpful to the Muslim community, that they're being helpful to Palestinians, but they're playing ball in proximity to people in power, or the kinds of power that they want to be close to. And they're making choices as a result of being in these spaces, and so that causes what looks to us like compromise. What I'd like to do, I mean, I'm obviously not at all throughout this entire call. I wasn't speaking for ISNA like at all. But what I'd like to be able to do with ISNA, because it is a really important platform, a really important organization in the Muslim community, is that we want to be able to preserve our deen, and we always talk to each other whenever we're on the board. We always remind ourselves it's the Islamic Society of North America, that this is an organization that was founded decades ago by people who, there's almost no Islam anywhere in this country. And these were people who dedicated their lives to Islam. They put like a bunch of books in their trunk and they left their house and their families for weeks at a time. Or, it was a lot of sacrifice and a lot of work that went into establishing these masajid and these institutions. And we're not really there just to sell tickets for conventions. That shouldn't be our goal. It should be something that is much more mission driven than that.
You hit the nail on the head right there, Ahmad. I think, a lot of us, we knock our immigrant families and parents that struggle to come over here. But when you go to Tarawih this Ramadan, majority of those masjids are in place because of those immigrant families. They just simply wouldn't be standing right now. And I think that's one of our fears as well. I think as our generations start becoming second and third generations, you don't see a lot of young Muslims who are in their 30s and 40s now taking the reins from their from their parents who were immigrants and taking roles in their masjids. And I think that's quite disconcerting that it's the stream of immigrants who are kind of holding up a lot of these institutions. I think it's refreshing to see someone like you being part of ISNA and being part of their board and working so hard to keep the flow of new blood alive in this organization.
And I hope all your listeners just buy their tickets to the ISNA convention and get on down to Houston.
Yeah, me and Mahin are actually coming to Houston for the ISNA convention, so we're excited about that.
Awesome.
My wife is coming. She has her organization called SEMA, which is trying to bring awareness to mental health in Muslim communities. So please stop by at her booth when you guys are there. I know we have a lot of people who are in Houston and are looking forward to meeting us over there.
Sounds good.
Inshallah, hopefully we'll get an opportunity to hang out.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Ahmed. Good seeing you. Good talking to you again. Thanks for the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Those
for our
are
listeners out there,
principles.
if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at themadmamluks@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. And for my co-hosts, Mort, Sheikh Ahmed Shaikh, and Sim, this is Mahin signing off for the Mad Mamluks. Assalamu alaikum.